9 spine-chilling 7-Eleven stories exposing terrifying secrets that will haunt your sleep forever. Lisa's heart raced as she poured coffee, the bitter smell mixing with the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Outside, shadows danced in the night, but inside the 7-Eleven, a sinister calm settled over the aisles. It was the kind of place you'd expect to find convenience, but tonight something felt off. Had that man really lingered too long at the counter? And those whispers? They crept around her like an ominous fog. Perhaps it was just fatigue pushing through yet another grueling night shift, yet the prickling at her spine urged her to listen. The soft-footed customers usually offering comfort were now cloaked in shadows, their faces twisting in familiar yet menacing shapes. Just then, her phone vibrated violently against the plastic counter. It was her son Alex, breathless and terrified. "Mom, someone's following me," he gasped, the raw panic threading through his voice. Lisa's heart plummeted. Ads and neon signs blurred as fear clawed at her insides. This wasn't just her exhaustion playing tricks, this was real. "Alex, stay near the bus stop, I'll be there soon," she said, her voice cracked with urgency without even a second to gather her composure. But inside, a storm brewed. As she dialed 911, her mind flashed to the shadows outside the disheveled man, eyes glinting like shards of glass in the dark. He leaned against the counter, an unsettling smile splitting his lips wide. "Do you know about the missing kids?" he asked calmly, almost too casually for comfort. Lisa's hands trembled as she fumbled with her keys. His gaze pierced through her like he had a secret only she could unravel. "Excuse me?" she muttered, her mind racing. "I just need to restock." She turned quickly. The store was emptying. The aisles twisted, every snack now felt like a barricade against the fear gnawing at her. She forced her breath to even out, reminding herself of the routine that kept them safe, a mundane cycle amidst the chaos. But she didn't expect this calamity to spiral into paranoia so tightly wound it left her breathless. Before she could comprehend, a noise echoed a jingle from the door. But in that moment, nothing felt familiar. The man's question hung in the air like a noose, tightening. "How well do you know your neighbor?" His lips curled, making the innocent question sound rotten. The name burned in her ears, an unsettling reminder of the urban legends that wrapped around her community like a suffocating blanket. As she straightened up, a flickering shadow drifted into the store. Her chest tightened as she caught sight of another familiar silhouette, her neighbor, Tom, known for his seemingly charming demeanor. The suspicious tales of him shared over coffee suddenly flared in her mind. Missing children, none of those rumors ever seemed to vanish, each one morphing into new fear. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Lisa's pulse quickened as she stood frozen, the weight of uncertainty crashing over her, a web of deceit and dark imaginings around her known world. As the dim light flickered once more, casting sinister shadows, she wondered if she could truly trust anyone in this small town. The line between friend and foe thinned to a razor's edge, and whether her family would escape the night was a question now feeding the darkness. With the clock bearing down, she knew she had to unravel this knot of terror or risk losing her children forever. Lisa's hands shook as she struggled to steady her breath. The fluorescent lights above buzzed angrily, and a cold sweat trickled down her back. The store, once a sanctuary from the outside world, felt more like a cage. She dared to glance at Tom, his face obscured by the shadows pooling at his feet, but he stepped closer, a grin stretching wide, infectious and terrifying. "Looking for something, Lisa?" he asked in that easygoing tone, the kind that twisted her gut. She could feel his curiosity, probing and possessive, and the hair on her arms stood on end. "Just coffee," she replied, forcing a smile that felt like a grimace, her mind racing back to Alex. Her son, alone in the darkness, fear bubbling in his throat like poisoned air. Had he heard the stories? She thought of the whispered rumors about Tom always so friendly, but something more sinister simmering beneath his surface. "Are you okay?" Lisa asked, hoping her voice wouldn't betray the panic churning inside. Tom raised an eyebrow. "Of course. I'm just here to help like always," he said, almost too sweetly. He reached out a hand and waved it in front of her like a magician revealing a trick. "You know, Lisa, I've always kept an eye on you and your family. You should feel safe with me. Isn't that right?" Each word dripped with a syrupy quality that made her stomach churn. What did he know? Had he been watching her? A sense of violation washed over her, and she forced herself to look away. Behind him, the door jangled again, and a cold breeze slipped into the store, swirling around her like a ghost. She stumbled back, nearly losing her grip on the counter. "Alex?" She managed to whisper into her phone, praying desperately that he hadn't left the bus stop. No answer. Only silence, then faint wheezing breaths filled the void. Had he been caught? Was he right now being dragged into the clutches of someone who had been hiding in plain sight? "Still with us, Lisa?" Tom continued, his voice oozing from the corners of the room. "Fear can be a powerful motivator. It brings out the best in people or the worst," he chuckled, his eyes glinting in a way that made her want to scream. There was no mistaking the suggestion behind his words. She caught sight of the once familiar snacks lining the shelves, normal lives anchored by innocence. Maybe those lives had been painted over, hiding monstrous secrets like stains on the linoleum floor. She had to break free. "Are you implying something, Tom?" She stuttered, the words slipping out like molasses. "Just making observations," he said smoothly. "Sometimes it's the quiet ones you should watch out for," he whispered, as if sharing a secret with the dark. The chill in the air morphed into something tangible, a breath hot against her ear, setting off the alarm bells in her mind. She turned on her heel, pushing through the double doors into the dimly lit lot outside. Her heart hammered against her ribcage as the gritty pavement crunched underfoot. Where was Alex? The darkness engulfed her, stretching from the streetlights into the corners of the parking lot. Sections of the ground remained unlit, and she dashed toward the bus stop, praying her instincts hadn't betrayed her. Then, from the shadows flickered an unmistakable silhouette, forming at the edge of the light the outline of her son, relief flooding her with warmth. But it quickly twisted into dread when she noticed the figure behind him, a shadow lurking, its movements jerky and unnatural. "Mom!" Alex shouted, but his voice held a tremor that sent ice down her spine. She sprinted towards him, pulling him into a protective embrace. But as she turned back to face the darkness, the figure had vanished, leaving a lingering dread that clawed at the edges of her mind. "Lisa?" Alex's eyes were wide with something more profound than fear. "I don't think it's safe here, not anymore." Had her innocent night shift unraveled into a nightmare? Were the shadows stretching within the 7-Eleven filled with more than just echoes of her doubts? The cold wind whipped past them, leaving whispers in its wake, warnings, or perhaps a promise of what lay ahead. A flicker in her peripheral vision brought her to a halt. The disheveled man from before stood at the edge of the lot, watching. Would they escape the confines of this growing horror? Or would the truth lurking just out of sight grasp them in its wicked embrace? "Mom?" Alex asked again, breaking her concentration. The tension coiled tighter. With a furtive glance over her shoulder, Lisa felt a gnawing realization seep into her heart. It had just begun. The silence hung heavily between them, broken only by the rustling of the wind. Lisa's heart raced, and panic twisted in her chest. "Alex, we need to get inside," she whispered, pulling him closer. The shadows felt alive, a predator stalking them from beyond the pale light. "But Mom, he's right there." Alex tugged at her arm, his voice breaking. She could see now how his fear morphed every shadow into a monster, and she wished she could reassure him. But what was she even facing? "Stay close," she ordered, her voice fierce, steadying her resolve. The disheveled man still stood at the edge of the lot, his figure warped by the shadows. She could sense the malice radiating off him. His eyes gleamed in the dim light, reflecting an unsettling hunger, a curiosity that sent shivers running down her spine. "Mom," Alex whispered again, his voice quivering like leaves in a tempest. What do we do? As she took a cautious step backward, her foot scraped the rough asphalt, and she could have sworn she heard a low chuckle in the distance mocking. Sure, Lisa hissed, her eyes glued to the figure carving out shapes in the underlying dark. Let us just move smoothly. Fingers trembling, she silently fished out her phone, desperate to dial someone, anyone. But the moment she pressed the screen, it flickered and died, the screen shining briefly like a star before fading completely. No! Come on, panic threatened to overflow as she jiggled it, willing it to come back to life. Mom! Alex's eyes widened with terror, pointing. The man was moving. With an unsettling grace, he stepped forward, emerging from the shadows as if he melded into them. Lisa's heart sank, each beat echoing the surge of dread coursing through her. She backed up, forcing herself to breathe, heart racing wildly. She had to protect Alex. Run! She shouted, and her instincts kicked in. With their feet pounding against the pavement, they raced back towards the store. Inside, the bright lights felt like a sanctuary, though no less daunting. The shelves hardly served as barriers, just props in a hollow stage play. Lock the door, Alex! He rushed to the entrance as she scanned for Tom, but he had vanished. The brightness of the store flickered, casting ominous shadows around them. Mom, what if he follows us? His voice trembled. He can't get in here, she assured him, though her mind was far from calm. The fear that had gripped her in the lot now clawed at her in earnest. Disorientation settled in, and reality seemed to wobble. Mom, I don't feel safe. Alex whimpered, glancing at the gaps in the aisles, as if something could leap out any moment. Neither am I, she yelled, voice cracking. But we have to stay strong. Just stay quiet. Suddenly, the lights above flickered violently, and then everything plunged into darkness. Fear surged like a tide, a palpable entity wrapping around them. She could hear Alex's heavy breathing next to her, smelling the panic that hung thick in the air. Mom! He sobbed, frantically reaching for her, and she grasped his hand tightly, squeezing it. A sound echoed beyond the walls of the store, a noise that made her blood run cold, a soft knocking, rhythmic and deliberate. Let us in, the voice called out, smooth and syrupy. Lisa felt her skin crawl. It was Tom. Let us in, Lisa, it beckoned, wrapping around her like an embrace, hiding its true intentions. Her heart raced. Memories of earlier words replayed in her mind, his twisted smiles and dark laughs. I swear, Alex, she murmured, I won't let anything happen to you. The knocking grew louder, merging with a low growl, like a hungry beast outside their protection. Fear engulfed her thoughts, consuming all hope and rationality. Hang on, this will be over soon, she whispered, though deep down, doubt gnawed at her heart. Then, just beyond the darkness, a light flickered back on. Tom's figure appeared in the glass door, and his smile widened, chilling her to the bone. Just wanted to help like always, he said, tilting his head as the glow from the ceiling reflected off his eyes, hungry for something more. Terror rippled through her. What exactly was lurking within him? How could she shield her son from this malevolence, when it seemed to always find them, even in a place that should have felt safe? This nightmare was just beginning, and Lisa felt the fraying tendrils of her sanity stretched to the limit. Mom, the faint sound of Alex's voice almost crushed her resolve. What was their next move? The lights flickered back into existence, casting a harsh glare that felt more like artificial daylight than a refuge. Tom's figure loomed against the glass like a ravenous wolf fancying a feast. The unsettling grin carved across his face spoke of twisted delight, a jarring reminder of his earlier threat. Stay behind me, Lisa hissed, instinctively positioning herself as a shield in front of Alex. The fear knotting her stomach was now nearly unbearable, a vice tightening with each slow, deliberate knock. Mom, what does he want? Alex whimpered, his small voice trembling as he clutched her shirt, seeking solace against the rising sense of dread. The knocking persisted, each thud echoing like a heartbeat in a terrifying silence, reverberating off the aisles of snacks and drinks. The once cheery color of the store seemed muted, drained of vibrance. It felt more like a tomb. "Let us in, Lisa," Tom's tone oozed with disturbingly calm menace. "You know I can help, I can make things better." A strange chill swept through her, cutting deeper than the fear. The clarity of her thoughts faltered, replaced by an unsettling curiosity. What would he do if she broke down and opened the door? "No!" she shouted, forcing strength into her voice. "You're not welcome here. He just wants to help, Mom." Alex's voice was soft, confused. Maybe he has changed?" Her heart pounded a warning. He changed, Alex? He dangerous." Yet a sliver of doubt crept in, clawing at her reasoning. Could there be a way to appease Tom? What would Alex think if she turned the man away completely? Around them, shadows shifted as anxiety grew, making her feel watched, hunted. She peeked around, but the aisles were empty, just faceless products staring back, holding secrets she couldn't decipher. More knocking. The monster outside didn't care about her reasoning. His patience was wearing thin. A low growl slithered beneath the buzzing lights as if the shadows themselves were alive with anger. Suddenly, the lights buzzed out again, plunging the store into inky blackness. Lisa felt Alex's fingers dig into her arm, the heat of his breath warm against her cold skin. "Mom, I can't," she whispered, forcing her heart to steady. She knew they had to act, and they had to act quickly. The darkness was suffocating. She felt her way back to the glass door, her hand resting on the cool surface. "We shouldn't let him in, we can get out through the back." "But what if he sees us?" Alex's voice quavered, raw with fear. Better than being trapped in here. The fear that gnawed at her instincts pushed her forward, but every instinct screamed otherwise. A crash sounded nearby, breaking her hesitation. A shelf toppled over, and the clatter rang through the air like a wail. "Time to go." Lisa grabbed Alex's hand and yanked him toward the back of the store. Their feet pounded against the floor, harmonizing with the frenetic thuds of her heart. "Mom! Wait!" He stumbled, pulling her arm. "What about?" "There's no time." As they neared the back exit, she felt the cold prick of air draft against her skin. "Just hold on tight." They burst through the door into the alley, ragged breaths clawing at their throats. The night air felt different here, thicker, laced with an undeniable sense of urgency and fear. "Where do we go?" Alex's eyes darted around, scanning the darkness that seemed even less forgiving now. Lisa opened her mouth to respond, but her words caught in her throat as an unnatural sound broke the night laughter, dark and echoing down the alleyway. Tom's voice carried through the dark, filled with sinister joy. "You think you can run from me? I'll always find you," panic surged. "Which way?" Lisa pulled Alex close, weighing her options, dread coiling in her stomach. But then Alex squeaked out in a whisper, "Mom, look!" From the shadows emerged a figure, another silhouette twisted and warped by the night. Lisa's stomach dropped. Who was it this time? Now they were trapped between two wolves, a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape. "Mom, please," she gripped Alex's hand tighter, forcing herself to think. As they inched forward, terror hung thick in the air. Where to run? Could they hide? The weight of dread threatened to engulf her as dark laughter echoed, mixing with Alex's frightened whimpers. The nightmare wasn't over, and every shadow was now a potential predator. What awaited them in that darkened alley? The shadow grew clearer, morphing from a blob of darkness into a distinct figure. Lisa's heart raced as she squinted into the gloom. The stench of dampness filled her nostrils, and her mind whirled with possibilities, none of them good. "Mom?" Alex's voice trembled, sharp in the oppressive silence. As the figure stepped into a flicker of light from a distant street lamp, Lisa's breath caught in her throat. It was another man, his face a grotesque mask of fear mixed with intensity. He was wild-eyed, his clothes tattered, what looked like dried blood streaking across his forearms. "Help us! Please!" he yelled, and for a second desperation twisted her gut. But then something in the wildness of his eyes stopped her. He was just as lost, just as trapped. Beyond him, Tom's laughter rumbled again, like distant thunder promising a storm. "See? How long do you think he can hold out?" Lisa? Just let me in. The alley began to shrink, closing in on them, dragging the sound of Tom's taunts closer. Frantic, Lisa glanced at both exits, one leading deeper into the darkness, the other offering a glimpse of the street beyond. The night felt like a predator toying with its prey. No! She shouted back, feeling the weight of Alex's hand slipping from her grasp. We can't trust him. Please, you don't understand. The man in front of them howled, pain etched into every line of his face. He will come for you. You need to get out of here. Mom! I don't want to stay here. Alex yanked her arm desperately, with wide, desperate eyes. Listen to him, the man urged, sidestepping closer. He has been hunting for. Before he could finish, the darkness surged, an unseen force pushing against them. The air felt electric. Lisa's instincts roared, declaring war on the fear gnawing at her mind. She had to decide. Run! Lisa tugged Alex hard and bolted toward the street, heart pounding. They darted past the wild man, but the moment their feet hit the cracked asphalt of the road, a loud crash vibrated through the alleyway behind them. What was that? Alex's voice strained, diving deep and rasping against her ear like ice scraping against glass. Just keep going. She sprinted with all her strength, every step pounding the fear deeper into her bones. But the laughter returned, bouncing off the buildings, chilling her spine. I will hunt you down for the rest of your days. A scream tore from her lips, raw and primal, as they broke into the street, sweat slicking the small of her back. Lisa pushed onward, her mind screaming a mantra, keep moving, don't look back. The street was empty, shadows dancing under the flickering streetlights. She shivered, the moonlight playing tricks on her eyes. Had they lost the man? Should she have stopped to check? But a sudden screech of tires brought her focus back to the moment. A car sped into view, and hope ignited. Help! Please! The car skidded to a halt, headlights sweeping past them. The driver's face was obscured, but the silhouette seemed menacing. Get in! He yelled, voice deep and gruff. Fingers trembling, Lisa hesitated. Was this savior or another threat? She glanced at Alex. His body trembled, and fear churned in her stomach. Mom, please! He cried, still searching for safety in her eyes. Just as she made her decision, a deep growl erupted from the darkness behind. The shadows began to twist and contort as if alive, creeping toward them with a hunger. It clawed at the corners of her mind, and Lisa understood there was nowhere left to go but forward into the uncertain. Get in! But as she reached for the door, the figure emerged from the shadows. Tom, his smile wider than ever, eyes glowing with manic joy as he stepped into the light behind her. Leaving so soon? He mocked, mouth stretched into a gruesome grin. Lisa's heart slammed against her ribs. The choice was clear and suffocating. But before she could act, the deep laugh from the tall man behind her echoed, familiar and twisted. What will it be, Lisa? The air thickened with dread. What awaited them inside the car? Was it salvation or just another trap? The moment hung heavy, a single breath quivering in the night air, as Lisa faced the sinister grin of Tom and the looming figure at the car. Primal fear pinched her heart. Was this a choice between a demon and the dark unknown? Behind her, the shadows pulsed like a living thing, hungry and patient. Mom! Alex cried, the desperation in his voice cutting deeper than any knife. He pressed against her side, eyes wide with terror. Get in! The driver shouted again, but Lisa could only nod, then shake her head. Time warped, stretching the moment into an eternity, and in that transient pocket of fear clarity sparked. Let us go! She yanked Alex toward the car. The door swung open, the interior light flickering like a warning. The driver's face remained obscured in shadow, but a cold shiver ran from Lisa's spine to the tips of her fingers. She threw herself inside, dragging Alex with her. As the door slammed shut, a wave of icy relief washed over her. Drive! She shouted, but she barely registered the darkness swirling just outside. Please drive! The engine roared to life, tires screeching on the asphalt as they sped away from the alley, away from Tom's haunting laughter. It felt too easy, too quick. Still, Lisa's body shook from adrenaline and dread. The man in the front seat kept his eyes on the road, his face still hidden in the shadows. What was that? Alex's small voice drifted, barely breaking the silence. Something evil. Is it gone? Lisa turned to glance back. The street lights flared to life behind them. Reflections of the past flickered through the rear window. She gasped. For a heartbeat, she believed she saw Tom's face lurking in the shadows, an owl glinting in the night, a predator forever hunting. Don't look! Lisa snapped, pulling Alex closer, her eyes locked on the road ahead. But an unsettling feeling washed over her. She couldn't shake it off. The driver broke the heavy silence, a low rumble of voice. You shouldn't have been there. What? Lisa's heart raced again, a pulse screaming danger. Do you know him? It's worse than you think. Before he could elaborate, a sudden jolt sent the car swerving. The driver slammed on the brakes, and Lisa was thrown against her seatbelt. What is it? She screamed, panic swallowing her words. In a blur of motion, something slammed into the side of the car, rattling the metal, screeching like a banshee. Tom's face flashed momentarily in her mind, twisted, malevolent, his eyes electric and alive with bloodthirst. The driver's grip tightened on the wheel, tension rippling through his body. We have to get away from it. Hold on. Another crash, and the world spun. Lisa felt a jolt, then the awful sensation of time collapsing. The vehicle spun to the side, glass shattered like 1,000 falling stars, and the screams of Alex became one with the night, echoing endlessly. In the dizzying chaos, a feathery darkness enveloped them, pulling Lisa toward a deep abyss of despair. As silence fell and the car settled, stillness replacing the noise, Lisa blinked into the shadows. They were trapped. Was Tom still hunting them? Had he followed them inside the car? Then, through the stillness, a soft whisper grazed her ear. You should have stayed away. The darkness shifted once more. What was lurking in the shadows now? The air was thick with tension, a suffocating weight pressing down on Lisa's chest. She instinctively glanced at Alex, whose eyes were wide with fear, reflecting her own terror. The darkness inside the car felt thicker now, almost sentient. Shadows danced along the walls, twisting in an agonizing mimicry of their fear. Mom? Alex whispered, voice trembling. Stay close, okay? She replied, forcing calmness into her words even as her heart raced. Every instinct screamed at her to act, to escape, but the lurching silence told her that whatever followed them was waiting for the right moment. The driver's hands were clenched on the steering wheel, knuckles white in the faint light. We can't stay here. We have to move. Move where? Lisa snapped, panic spilling over. Do you even know what's outside? His voice barely rose above a murmur, as if saying it aloud could summon something worse. We got to find a safe place. Safe? Lisa scoffed. What's safe about tonight? The car remained eerily still, the suffocating silence broken only by the sound of her breathing. She looked out the shattered window, braving a glance at the alleyway they had escaped from. Its mouth stretched wide, a dark chasm that felt alive, as if it were a gaping wound in reality. The driver shifted the gear, ready to go, but he hesitated. I can't leave you both here. Then keep driving, Lisa urged, the urgency bubbling over. Get us out of here. Suddenly, the rearview mirror glinted with movement. A figure materialized from the shadows, grim and hulking, matching the contours of the darkness. Lisa's breath caught in her throat as dread wormed its way into her gut. I see him, the driver murmured. She twisted in her seat, heart hammering painfully. It was Tom, or someone like him, too close, stepping out from the cover of night like a grotesque marionette. He raised his hand, the corner of his mouth stretching into a smile that scrunched up his features. No longer a shadow, just evil personified. Drive! She screamed. The driver slammed on the accelerator, tires screeching against the pavement. The car lurched forward, headlights illuminating the grim landscape ahead. Get down! He barked, as something collided against the trunk with a thud, sending Alex sprawling. Lisa bent down instinctively, but not before she caught a glimpse of Tom grinning. He had leaped onto the back, gripping the metal frame, unsettling ease radiating from him. An animalistic glint sparkled in his eyes as time slowed again, the reality of their situation settling in like quicksand. "Mom! What do we do?" Alex cried, panic-infused desperation clawing at his voice. "Keep your head down." Another bang, this time stronger, twisted the metal, and Lisa heard the sound of nails dragging, scraping like claws. The car twisted violently, flinging her against the door. The air was thick with her despair as the driver wrestled with the wheel. Was their escape even possible? "Stay with me," the driver shouted, heart racing, but Lisa's gaze remained locked on the side mirror. Tom was still there, his face a mask of intent beneath the streetlights, an angel of doom closing in under the glow. Another shudder, and the back window shattered completely, casting glass splinters into the car like a regrouping storm. "Drive faster!" Lisa screamed, her voice raw, edged with terror. As they surged forward, the driver desperately pressed the gas, but beneath the roar of the engine, a low growl echoed, vibrating through the floorboards. More than Tom was out there. Something was closing in. They were being hunted. "Is it coming?" Alex asked, shivering against Lisa. "There's no stopping now," she breathed, the shadows whispering just outside. But could they outrun the darkness? A single question lingered: what was more terrifying than what was behind them? As the road curved, the outline of an old 7-Eleven flickered into view. Would this be their salvation or their doom? "Go through there," she blurted out, hope mixed with dread flooding her veins. They skidded into the parking lot, but as they emerged from the car, darkness awaited them at the threshold, swirling, hungry. "Mom, what's happening?" The slamming door echoed within the growing silence. And then, laughter loud and ominous filled the space. Something ancient and furious stirred behind them. What awaited them inside? The fluorescent lights of the 7-Eleven flickered ominously, casting an unsettling glow over the cracked pavement. Lisa felt a chill crawling up her spine, as if the very air around them was thickening. Alex's grip tightened on her hand, his little fingers trembling as he stared at the store's entrance, eyes wide with naive terror. "Mom, I don't want to go in there," Alex whimpered, glancing over his shoulder. "Neither do I, but we have to," Lisa said, forcing herself to sound steady. Every fiber of her being screamed that they needed shelter, that staying outside meant risking everything. But what if the hope of safety turned into a nightmare? The laughter echoed again, a guttural sound that resonated in the depths of her mind. She turned her head towards the predator lurking behind them, but the instant she did, the sound stopped, swallowed by the night. A silence so absolute hung around them, heavy and suffocating, it made her stomach twist. "Step inside, quickly!" the driver hissed, urgency in his voice as he pushed the door open. He glanced back into the dark parking lot, panic evident on his face. Lisa had barely registered that the driver had also emerged from the car when Alex pulled her toward the entrance. She followed, unable to look away from the darkness swirling around them, a black vortex threatening to consume them all. They stumbled into the store, the ringing of the doorbell almost comically loud against the backdrop of tension. The bright, jarring interior offered little comfort. Rows of snacks and drinks surrounded them, bright packaging glowing like false promises. "Lock the door," Lisa demanded, pushing Alex toward the entrance as the driver stumbled in behind them. He slammed the doors shut with a bang that echoed against the tiled floor, sending chills racing down Lisa's spine. "What do we do now?" Alex asked, voice trembling. "Just stay quiet," she whispered, her heart racing as adrenaline coursed through her veins. She moved towards a shelf, finding a flashlight near the display of batteries. "Stick close to me." The driver fumbled with his phone, desperately trying to get some signal, but the connection was dead. There's no service. His face paled, mirroring Lisa's unease. "Maybe we should leave," he said. "We could try to find another place." "No!" Lisa shot back, her voice sharp in the stillness. "Do you want to go back out there?" An uneasy silence fell again, thick enough to taste. The faint sound of gravel crunching outside made them all jerk with alarm. They turned their heads toward the door as if expecting someone to come bursting through at any moment. "Should we call for help?" Alex's small voice broke the tense atmosphere, every bit of innocence hanging in the air. "I don't think calling anyone will help right now," Lisa sobbed, anguish filling her voice. She ran her fingers over the cool canisters of soda, feeling grounded by the mundane object as if it could shield them from the terror lurking outside. The driver turned, listening intently. The sound outside was different now, more than just gravel. It was a low hum, growing louder, vibrating through the walls. "Do you hear that?" he murmured, fear creeping into his tone. It was then the lights flickered once more, dimming before adjusting to full brightness again, the fluorescent hum punctuated by an almost tangible heartbeat of sound. As they exchanged worried glances, Alex's gaze drifted to the back of the store, where the shadows curled in almost alluring shapes. "Mom, something's moving back there." Lisa felt her breath hitch. "What do you mean?" But another laugh, colder than before, sliced through the air, sending them all into freezing silence. "Run!" she screamed, heart racing, eyes darting in all directions. With no time to think, they bolted deeper into the store, the ultimate question flooding Lisa's mind: what was chasing them from the darkness? As they reached the edge of the ice cream freezer, they dared to glance back. But nothing prepared them for the sight looming just inside the entrance. The figure stood there, watching them, eyes glinting with a hunger that made their blood run cold. What was waiting in the shadows, and could they escape without knowing what they had just unleashed? They ran, the sound of their footsteps echoing against the tile floor in a frantic rhythm. Lisa's heart hammered in her chest as she dragged Alex along, her mind racing with thoughts of what lurked behind them. Shadows flickered in her periphery as if alive, crawling against the walls, urging her to look back to confront what they had awakened. "Mom! It's coming!" Alex's voice was a sharp whimper, his grip slipping as panic etched itself deeper into his features. "It can't be, it can't," Lisa breathed, forcing herself forward, deeper into the unknown. The air felt colder here, charged with electricity, thickening as if the very fabric of reality was fraying around them. Behind the ice cream freezer, she spotted a door, a chance, a possible escape. "There! Alex, we're going!" But as they turned to sprint toward it, the lights hummed violently, throwing erratic shadows across the aisles. The low laugh echoed again, sending icy fingers of dread curling around her spine. This time, it felt closer, more intimate, as if they were being watched not just from afar but from within the store itself. "Everywhere we turn, it's there!" the driver barked, his wild eyes darting around in search of safety. "What the hell is that thing?" "I don't know," Lisa shouted, releasing Alex's hand momentarily to nudge the freezer open. The door squeaked in protest, dark and cold inside. It felt wrong, but they had to hide. The figure looming near the entrance shifted. There were no longer just eyes glinting in the shadows, but a form, a glimpse of something grotesque swelling before them. "Get inside!" Lisa yelled, pushing Alex into the freezer, squeezing in after him. The chill seeped through their clothes, numbing their skin, but she had no choice. A cage of cold seemed better than that terrifying silhouette. She stared at the door, its outline barely glowing in the dim light, the sound of the figure moving behind it steady and deliberate. Silence fell in the freezer. Lisa held her breath. Every sound amplified the drumming of her heart, the hushed gasps of Alex. They maintained a death grip on each other, knowing that just the slightest noise could unravel everything. "Mom, I'm scared," Alex whispered, his voice shaky. "I know, baby. Just hold on, she whispered back, forcing calm into her voice. Outside, the laughter erupted suddenly, jarring them out of their fearful cocoon. It wasn't mere amusement, it was a cackle, twisted and full of malice, echoing as if it were coming not from one but a chorus of unseen horrors. The door rattled. Lisa's pulse raced again. The creature was testing their barricade. It howled, the sound reverberating in the small space, tightening Lisa's chest, filling her with dread. Then the lights flickered one final time before plunging everything into darkness. "Mom?" Alex's faint voice trembled. In that thick blackness, it hit her there was no longer just the threat outside. Something crept closer to them. The air shifted, filling with an unnatural presence that chilled her blood. Lisa whispered urgently. She could barely hear her own thoughts, let alone what might be lurking just a breath away. But there it was, a breath on the back of her neck. Her instincts pushed her to bolt, to fight, but fear pinned her feet to the ground. She turned slowly, eyes straining against the dark, seeking any flicker of movement. If she instinctively took a step back, would they be swallowed whole by the shadows? And would that laughter follow them into oblivion? The darkness was consuming. Then she heard it, a scraping sound, nails against metal, inching ever closer in the pitch black. What was hunting them now? Would they be the next victims in this nightmare? That laugh returned, echoing through the void. They weren't alone. Alex, she breathed, terror closing in. We need to, but the sentence was cut off by an unholy screech that tore through the air, a sound of raw hunger. It was time to face the reality of their worst fears, but was there anything left for them to fight with? The sound erupted, piercing through the choking darkness like splintered glass, and Lisa felt her heart seize. Nothing could prepare her for the raw, desperate terror radiating from that screech, an untamed cry that promised devastation. Her instinct screamed to protect Alex, to shield him from whatever horror awaited them, but the freezing grip of fear had her paralyzed. Mom, I can't see! Alex whimpered, pressed tightly against her. Lisa could barely hold on to her own sanity, yet she felt the warm pulse of his body, a fragile thread tethering them to each other. Just don't move, she whispered, trembling, adrenaline coursing through her. She had to make a plan, and fast. If whatever was outside found them, there would be no escape. The scratching grew louder, more frantic, echoing against the metal walls of the freezer. What lurked beyond must smell their fear. Listen to me, Alex, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos within. When I say go, we run out of here, okay? Straight to the front. Got it? Got it, he replied, determination lacing his voice, though terror clung to him like a shadow. Then the lights flickered back on a bright, jarring flash revealing the horror outside. For an agonizing moment, Lisa had to pivot her mind away from the door. She had to. They were trapped, but breaking out meant confronting the presence lurking just beyond the glass. In that brief illumination, she caught sight of the figures outside. Tom stood in the center of the entrance, a ghoulish grin spreading across his face, a grotesque mask of amusement. But behind him, shadows writhed, shapes looming larger than life. They were not alone. Lisa's heart dropped as she realized there were multiple figures, all grotesque and distorted, moving as if sharing a sinister dance. Now! She shouted, her voice echoing off the shelves, driving Alex into motion. They scrambled to the exit, running straight through the fray of darkness and laughter that spilled into the store. The doors swung open violently, the bells ringing maniacally, and they bolted past Tom. Let us in, Lisa! He laughed. I've always been here to help. No! Lisa screamed, firing the words back at him like bullets. They dashed forward, ripping through the lights of the parking lot, racing toward the flickering streetlights, their only refuge. Mom, please! Alex cried, glancing back briefly, meeting the predatory gaze of their pursuers. Keep going! She urged, pulling him closer, her chest tight with panic. Together, they rounded the side of the building, desperate not to look back. The laughter was a haunting melody that intertwined with their breaths, growing louder, mocking them with every frantic step. They were almost at the end of the lot when Lisa spotted an old car parked haphazardly between the shadows. Get in! She shouted, yanking the door open with a loud creak. The driver's door was ajar, the interior dark and quiet, but only for a moment. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps merged with the terrible laughter. It was a rhythmic pounding against the pavement. They were close. Mom! Alex gasped, his face pale, panic radiating off him like heat. Now, Alex, now! She cried, pushing him into the passenger seat before sliding in herself, slamming the door shut just as Tom's face appeared outside the window, grinning, his eyes wide and predatory. Let us in! He howled, rage boiling beneath the facade of his smile. With shaky fingers, Lisa fumbled with the ignition. Come on! The engine roared to life, a powerful sound, an affirmation that they were still alive, still fighting. Go! Go! Alex shouted, his voice a fierce encouragement that fueled her. She slammed the gear shift into drive, hurling the car toward the exit of the parking lot, her foot pressing down hard on the accelerator. As they surged forward, the figure of Tom receded into the darkness, his laughter fading, echoing into the night. But Lisa couldn't relax. The shadows felt alive, twisting farther back, and she knew they were still pursuing them, watching, waiting. Are we safe? Alex asked, tears glistening in his eyes. I don't know, she admitted, biting her lip. But we're free for now. And we'll keep running. The road ahead sprawled into the night, an endless landscape of uncertainty stretching out before them. She glanced back, half expecting to see the figures emerge just behind, but the prompts that whispered behind her didn't sway her attention. As they sped away from the 7-Eleven, fragile hope kindled in her chest. The adrenaline that had surged moments before began to settle into exhaustion. We made it, she breathed. But somewhere deep inside, she knew this was just a reprieve. The night was far from over, and whatever haunted the shadows would always remember them. Lisa exhaled, letting the air shift through her lungs, feeling the comforting weight of her son beside her. They would face whatever nightmare awaited them together. Their fight wasn't just to survive, it was to reclaim their lives, one day at a time, in a world that might not ever truly feel safe again. And ahead of them, the road was theirs to navigate, illuminated by the flickering light of a distant horizon. As the car sped into the dark, they would become the story, the survivors of a tale where terror lurked in every corner. And they would never stop running. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that explore the darkness and light of humanity. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, and show you want more spine-chilling tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this heart-pounding ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.